All right, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. I'm Ted Summers, as always, or well, most of the time anyway, from Tulsa, Oklahoma. With me, as always, from Canton, Ohio, is Eric Stambro. Eric, what's up?
Getting ready to leave for Aruba on Saturday, doing training, doing some work.
Right. Yeah, I'm air quotes here. You're working.
Yeah. I mean, I'll meet up with the one guy, but I won't meet up with the brass like I usually do. But yeah, I got Akron PD and working with them tomorrow. I'm really trying to get tracking in their DNA a little bit more. That city gets at it, man. That police department rocks because they got a lot of crime. So
I was going to say Akron's a shithole.
Oh yeah, it's crackrin they call it, but they have no crack. They just have meth, fentanyl, and some automatic weapons. There's the amount of guns in that town. It's crazy. But yeah, so I'm going up there to mess with them tomorrow. But if you notice, I moved my camera back so you can see a little bit more of the logo in the back. I can't remember who it was. They're like, dude, your camera is too close to your face. Like we can see up your nose. And I'm like, I'm going to put this bitch right here. You ain't going to see shit on my face.
Yeah.
Right here. What's going on in Tulsa?
Started a handler school this week, 160-hour course. I have one person in there from our 501 that's going through a state mandated course that I couldn't afford to pay for it. But so the 501 is like sponsoring their. We have a business that is paying for it. That is we're doing the whole school and whatever else for them. I didn't train the dog. He's going to be okay. Single purpose German Shepherd. Yeah, the dual purpose dogs are kind of rock and roll. We had their first tracks today, and like having handlers with their first tracks. It's like, okay, like this is what you do with your hands, and this is what you don't do with your hands, and it's like going through all the rules, and if he stops, you stop, and like it's the whole fucking thing. So it's been a starting class again. I've got another class. I've actually got another class scheduled for November, December, and then I got one scheduled for January, February. So for like the next 6 months, it's like class to back to back to back to back to back. And in between and in the same classes, we're training green dogs and prepping them for the next school. And so it's been, it's going to be busy. And
you still doing your Thursday nights?
Yep. And yeah, we are. And
this Thursday, make them do blindfold tracks for me. And let me know how it goes.
Do blindfold. Yeah, I love it. We can do blindfold tracks. And then in between these classes, I'm going to go to Bulgaria for the new kennel project we have over there, the new facility we have. And I'm going to go to an IGP trial over there while I'm there that one of our trainers is putting on. One of the guys that works with us. So it'll be interesting.
You try to buy a dog off the field?
No, that's not my thing. I'm not.
Man, that's
I have gotten some gnarly.
Take some cash.
Whatever we're calling it now, IGP, or I don't know what the new term is for it now. But yeah, so outside of that, I ordered a bunch of new dogs. They'll get here when they get here, and trying to figure out the tariff.
Yeah.
Shit. It's I'm trying to find a way around it. So we tried to get an exemption with USDA for law enforcement stuff, and they're trying to figure out if there is an exemption and how to do it. And so it's been it's been a hassle.
Customs, so you get the broker and everything for the customs. When customs imports dogs, they have to get a broker.
I know. Yeah,
for their own shit.
One of our guy does that.
It's so stupid.
He's the broker, the customs guy for customs in this portion, in the southern portion of the U.S., or parts of the southern portions of the U.S. He's like, oh, I do it for customs too. And I'm like, I mean, isn't that like,
I fought that for a while, man, and was doing my own clearing, but I just paid.
No, it's worth the money. It's not
what's her name at that one company in Atlanta, and it made it so much easier.
Yeah, you pay like $75 a dog or something, and they clear customs before they hit the.
Yeah, I don't got to talk to nobody. They know the vendors over there, or the Animals to Fly, or whoever is your shipper, and they know all them dudes. And so, anyways,
what do we got tonight?
We got a guy coming on that. Him and I have followed each other online. You know how that goofy. We're buddies online. We're friends online. But he's one of those guys that I've followed for a long time, and I've heard always good things about. Been in military handling, police handling, decoy training of all aspects of dog work in general. And we're gonna get into, because he's gonna talk about it. You're gonna hear how long this dude's been doing puppies and raising dogs and selection and understanding genetics and things like that. It goes, back through his parents and everything like that, his mother and everything. So from Loudoun County, Tennessee, for now, is Bebo Santana. Buddy, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you guys?
How is it? You still like blazing hot in September down there?
It's hot during the day, but when the sun goes down, it gets a little chilly. It's starting to cool down, thankfully. It's pretty miserable for a while. What
we like to do in the beginning here is go through your history. Let's talk about like when you grew up and your when you started with dogs. I know it's as a kid and everything, and we'll go through kind of your history with dogs to about today. This episode is brought to you by Kinetic Dog Food, kineticdogfood.com. Ted and I love it, man. It's such a really, really good high performance dog food, but also their 24K formula. We use it for training. It is amazing. A nice big piece. No chicken in that particular formula. So if you get a new dog in from Europe, you don't know if he's allergic or not, don't worry about it. Check it out. kineticdogfood.com.
Our friends out in North Carolina at Highland Canine Training run great green and finished dog programs, as well as an online and in-person police supervisor course. Hit them up at highlandcaninetraining.com. That's letter K number 9, highlandcanine.com. 30% off the discount code WDR30.
This episode also brought to you by Horizon Structures, horizonstructures.com. They will custom build you a kennel, drop it off, hook it up to your water and electric, and have that thing running with dogs in it the same day. They can custom build one. They got some already pre-built. Check them out on their website, horizonstructures.com. Anything you need from mild to wild, they're there.
One of the longtime supporters of the show has been Ray Allen Canine in Colorado Springs, Colorado. They've been around forever. RayAllen.com, where you can buy literally everything but the handler of the dog and the patrol vehicle. Everything else you can get from them. Hit them up, WDR10RAY for 10% off your order. That's WDR, the numbers 10RAY.
One of our longest sponsors is Dogtra, Dogtra Official, Dogtra.com. We love Dogtra. Their products are so good. Their e-collars, their ball poppers. Ted uses all kinds of different things at his place, from pet dog e-collars to working dog e-collars. He loves the hands-free 1900S. They've come out with some new models lately and an amazing new bark collar called the Smart Bark Collar. Check them out. Dogtra.com, WDR10 for 10% off a single item over $200. Dogtra.com.
Somebody that's been with us since the beginning is Arnaud out in Vegas at ALM Canine Equipment. If you follow me on social media, you see me wearing my ALM suits all the time. It's all I wear. I've got several of them. Eric's got several of them. We love Arnaud. We love ALM, custom made in Vegas. WDR or WD Radio for 10% off. That's WD Radio for 10% off. ALM Canine Equipment. That's letter K number 9. ALMCanineEquipment.com.
I grew up in a family of dogs. My mom imported the first dogs of mine lost to the island in Puerto Rico in 1974. I wasn't even born then. I was born in 84. So by the time I was born, my mom already had a full kennel. She did Malinois and German Shepherd. So I grew up basically handling working dogs, cleaning kennels, doing the chores, the house chores. Most kids are taking out the trash and cleaning their rooms. I'm doing that plus cleaning kennels. Didn't really have much of a social life. Single mother, So I got of age and was able to, to immerse myself. Was lucky enough to immerse myself into dogs at a very young age. Did a little bit of I was training. I did some back in the day yank and crank pet training. We all evolve in training and stuff like that. But did that, and then got into the protection side. I even did some confirmation handling. I did some AKC obedience competitions. Did some personal protection dogs. Then when I was about 14, I was like, yeah, I'm done with my mom's a AKC and FDI show judge. Mm-hmm. So I was a junior, junior handler. And I was like, yeah, I'm done with this, foofy thing. And then immerse myself more into the working side of the dogs. At the time, probably was like I said, 12, 13. My mom's best friend, Carlos Abreu in Puerto Rico, he did protection dogs. He's been in dogs for a long time, and he taught me the ropes of, proper bite work mechanics and how to work dogs. And I used to, go with him to his places about an hour and a half from my house. I used to go over there at least 3 times a week, and then in the summers I would pretty much stay out there. And was in the suit at like 15, 14, 15. I was in the suit, and that's kind of how I learned a lot of it. And then I was about 16. I got my first Malinois when I was 14. I bred her when I was 16. Yeah, she was 2 years old, Kiara. We bred her with another Malinois that was in the island. It came from France, and I had my first litter of Malinois at 16. She was 16 puppies, all of them.
Jeez.
Yeah, all of them lived. I was waking up every 2 hours, bottle feeding, supplementing. I was like, "Hey, Mom, you gonna help me?" She's like, "No, buddy, you're on your fucking own."
You gotta learn today.
You're on your fucking own, and I did. I raced all of them. Some of them, I was, like I said, I was entering the working world. So some of them went to like protection homes. Some of them went to like family. And a lot of puppies. Not every puppy in the litter is going to be, a banger. This. And then, I started getting more involved into the working aspect. Started getting into French ring in Puerto Rico, which it wasn't big. It was a very small group that did French ring in Puerto Rico. Got away from French ring and showed a lot of interest on MBBK. So I started studying a little bit about MBBK. MBBK is Belgian ring for those that don't know, but and I found it very interesting. I found that the type of dog they were using for MBBK was a lot harder, a lot stronger, more stable, bigger bones, more impressive.
Genetic grips.
Oh yeah, genetic grips.
Yeah. Those dogs are fucking monsters.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, in the sport, you have 2 judges, and the grip gets judged from each side of the bite, not just one side.
Oh, okay.
So
and it's worth. Is it still worth 25 points? I mean, it's still like there's still like a 25, and that's the joke, right? Like I have a dog in one of my in my training group, and they call him a 23-point dog when we bought him. Because they're like, we don't want a 23-point dog.
Yeah.
I was like, shit, I'll take him.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll take him all day long. And he's an MBBK dog. He's angry at everything, and he likes to bite, and he bites super hard, and he bites at 23 points instead of 25, which is perfect.
That's why they sell them, right?
Yeah. Because so
yeah, no, absolutely. And then so as time progressed, I found a really a big passion into the MBBK just because of the type of dog, and the routine it's a little loose, but it's still hard, and like you have to have a hard dog to do MBBK. If not, you're not gonna make it. And then when I turned 18, the president of the MBBK, Jermaine Powell, came to the States, and we were gonna we did a month long. It was about a month. It wasn't a full month, but it was about a month long. We were trying to bring MBBK to America, and this was actually Gus Artiles at his place in West Palm Beach, and I was 18. They did a decoy certification, obviously, with the people that had some experience in other sports, and then they did like a small judges program. And let me tell you, Jermaine got a bunch of shit about it in Belgium. Like they were not happy about it. But it did happen. We kept the sport alive for about a year, and then at that seminar is when I got at 18. It's when I got my first MBBK dog, and he was actually Jermaine Powell's personal dog.
No shit.
Yeah, my grandfather had just passed. I inherited, a little bit of money, nothing crazy. I mean, we're talking about 2002, 2001. I think I inherited like 10 grand, from it's a lot of cousins. So I was there with Carolo. With my mentor, and I approached him. I told Carol, I was like, man, I really, really like that dog. And so I approached for Jermaine, and I was like, hey, and he's speaking to me in that broken Flemish, and we were sitting around the fire. In Puerto Rico, legal drinking age is 18, so let's just say I in the fire with them, having some beers, and got to talking, and I was like, hey, you ever consider selling your dog? And he's like, oh, no, it's my first little dog, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. The dog was 3 years old at the time. He was already an MBBK1, which in MBBK is different than most sports. The 1 is the highest, right? So it's 1 through 3. So he was already an MBBK1 dog. He's the dog that I certify as an MBBK decoy with. So when I offered money, he's like, oh, you're just a kid. I got to talk to your mom. So Gus called my mom. My mom was like, it's his money. He can do whatever he wants with it. And then Jermaine was like, I guess Jermaine thought that my mom was going to be like, no, don't be doing crazy stuff, blah, blah, blah. But she was like, it's his money. He's been in dogs forever. Like, if he feels he can handle that dog, then by all means.
All right, this episode is brought to you in part by Kinetic Dog Food, kineticdogfood.com. We've been using Kinetic for quite a while at the kennel here at Torchlight. We feed the 26 and the 28K formula in feeding for the dogs over there, but I also use the 24K for all of my imprinting for obedience and imprinting for tracking. If you follow me, you've seen me do the tracking stuff where I do the Dick Stahl method, who we've also had on the show. But it's great because it's large and it doesn't get greasy and gross in the pouch. I've seen a lot of dudes with drop pouches that look like they're carrying dirty socks around, and it's disgusting. This doesn't do that. It's not greasy. Also, it's not a chicken-based formula, so if you get dogs in from Europe, you're not sure if the stomach is going to handle it. And it's a fairly low-calorie version, too, so you can do 1,000,000 reps and not have to worry about dog getting fat. kineticdogfood.com. Also, we've had the guys on the show before, and they talk about it, but they do a lot to make sure that the protein bases are nice and pure, and that the stuff that they're adding to it actually adds additive to it, and they're not filling it with pocket lint and sawdust like a lot of other foods. So hit them up, kineticdogfood.com. It's really interesting, right? Because we have France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, they all literally share borders. Well, France isn't with the Netherlands, but I mean, like, Belgium's in between them. Anyway, and those are kind of like the three preeminent programs in like working dogs you have, aside from IGP. But we have like French Ring, then Belgian Ring, and then KMPV. And it's interesting because each one of those three sports, even though they border each other and they use a lot of the same breeds, they're not the same dogs, and it is not the same program. Nope. So it's crazy, right? Because like you can have dogs that get like a 440 or like a 438 or whatever in KMPV, and those dogs are then sold and brought over to the United States. And then they go and work successful programs. A lot of those NVBK dogs are angry fucking dogs, and they'll trial 47 times, and they'll re-get their ones like I don't know how many times, and then they'll die on some dude's couch at 13 years old. They're super healthy. They live forever, but they're mad all the time. And then the French Ring dogs are, super fast and super agile and like all these things. So when people start asking, well, he's KMPV lined or he's NVBK lined or he's French Ring lined, and then, you see the dog, I'm like, that is not a French Ring dog. 1,000%. He's too fucking big. He's not very fast, and he's fucking mad about everything. Like, that is not a French Ring dog. And not that they're not that way, but I mean, they definitely have a very solid phenotype, and they tend to be very like one handler dogs. So when you bought this dog from him, like, what was that transition period like?
It was weird.
It was weird. He says it was weird.
That time, we were still able to take, dogs as cargo, as excess baggage.
Oh God.
In the belly of the plane. So, I had him, he handed me the leash, and the dog was fine. He wasn't like crazy, but he looked at me like, so I handled him for a little bit in Florida, and then we got on the plane. He put him on the kennel for me. I said, all right, well, when I get home, we'll see what happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
I took him off the plane. We landed in Puerto Rico, brought him out, just opened the kennel, put the leash on him, didn't hesitate. They can read you very well, obviously. Just, if you're shaky a little bit, they'll counter on that opportunity. But just open the door, put the leash on, took him out. Serious ass dog, but wasn't like trying to eat me. And then, it took me about I would say about 3 weeks to be able to actually start like doing some work with them. So Boss was, I tried to turn him into a house dog after a while. When they were laying in bed, and this was like probably 3 or 4 months of the dog already being with me, and me being the only one feeding him, me doing everything. And no shit, man, I woke up at like 3 in the morning with him laying on my chest, growling at me, and I was like, okay,
That checks out.
Here's where it ends.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, buddy. So I just started petting him, and like he like relaxed, and thankfully I had a little ball on my nightstand, and I just grabbed the ball and I just chucked it, and he got off the bed and went and grabbed the ball, and then came all happy like, oh, nothing happened. And then after that, he started sleeping in the crate again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
I mean, I was 18, you know, I at a point in time, I was like, I think I'm way over my head. But we got to jiving and we got to work, and MBBK kind of died. You know, that there wasn't enough people that were willing to put the hard work and the routines and the training. And then there were people trying to put like these American bred dogs into MBBK, and it's just
No,
you're not going to be successful. You're not like if you don't have MBBK dogs, you're not going to be successful in the sport because you don't have the genetics or the grips and all that stuff. So it just kind of went dead. So I started doing French ring, started transitioning him to French ring, and that was another journey. So transitioned him to French ring, and then I had him for a year, and then I got my girlfriend pregnant, or my ex-girlfriend pregnant, and I was like, well, shit, I have to do something, because dog training at that time, first of all, it's not going to leave any money, and second of all, dog training in Puerto Rico still this day doesn't make any money. It's nothing like in the States at all. Like you tell a client that you want to do it, a 4-week board and train for $3,500, and they'll laugh.
Yeah.
Over there, you pay like $1,000 for a month. So I tried to join the police department because my mom was the trainer and assessor for the police department in Puerto Rico for the horses. But she's the one that stood up the Mounted Police Department in Puerto Rico. So I tried to be a cop in Puerto Rico. The academy dates were like super long. And I wasn't going to be doing anything for like 6-7 months. So I said, screw it. I went to the recruiter office. It was one of those offices that has all the branches. And I was like, who's going to take me? And they're like, well, do they ask that? And obviously, I wasn't the brightest. Plus, English wasn't my forte at the time. Still it's not, but I can understand and speak better. I took the ASVAB, and I ended up going to the Army. The Army took me. And then, I got out of dogs for a little bit because my first duty station was Germany. And even though I got out of dogs, I mean, my mom still had my dog Bass, and then eventually Carolo, which was my mentor, he took him over and continued doing French ring with him. I got to Germany. In Germany, I visited a couple of the breeders that my mom dealt with for shepherds. So I did a lot of like Schützen at the time, helper work over there in Germany while I was in the Army. And then when I got back from Germany, I got to Hood. Yeah, I went to Fort Hood. And in Fort Hood, I rented a house that had like 3 acres. And then I started like scrounging around, reaching out to people like, hey, do you still have dogs from my lines and blah, 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 blah. And I was able to gather a couple of the dogs and recoup a couple of the lines. And then I imported another MBBK dog, Oran, and then added him to the program. So now I had 2 MBBK dogs, bloodlines, and then the dog that I imported. And then from there, the rest is history. At every station I went, every post I went, I was doing, protection dogs for people and clients, and I was still, messing around with dogs and doing ring stuff, but not like fully immersed. To be honest, everybody knows this sport doesn't really leave money, So, and not that money is my motivation, but there was a lot more avenue as far as like the pet training and the family protection type, and I stuck to that Then, I was stood out by local departments to come out to the canines and do some, I don't call them workshops, I call them seminars. It's just, we're working dogs and we're troubleshooting and we're, trying to recreate scenarios and fix whatever I can help you with. And it was, honestly, I did it free. It wasn't, I didn't charge them anything. Like, they would buy me lunch and dinner or whatever, but like, I would just go out there and help them out. And I did that for a while. And then after Hood, I went to Fort Irwin. And then in Irwin, again, I got a property, had like 5 acres in Apple Valley, California, and the desert. And stood up again, the pet training and like protection stuff. And then got linked up with a couple departments in the area, helped them out with their dogs. Then while I was in the box in Fort Irwin, Marsup came out with their dogs to do training before deploying. And they went to the vet clinic and they're like, hey, our decoy got hurt. We need to do some work. Is there anybody that you know in the area? And they're like, actually, yeah. And, this guy, Bebo, he's been doing working dogs his whole life. And he does decoys for a couple of departments out here. So they gave him my number. They call me and they're like, hey, can we give him your number? I said, yeah, whatever. So they gave him my number, and then, I went and worked with some of the Marshall dogs out there. I had a little Dutchie. It was like a 40-pound Dutchie. His name was Frodo. That motherfucker put me on my ass.
Probably one of my favorite companies to deal with in this industry is Ray Allen Canine. What I really love about Ray Allen Canine is I need one website. I don't got to bounce around to a bunch of different places. I go to rayallen.com and everything I need. Because remember, guys, I have a pet dog training business, same with Ted, and we do police dogs. I'm a pet dog owner. Anything I need dog related. It's not just working dogs stuff. It's dog stuff. Anything I need, Ray Allen has. Rayallen.com has everything you need, from leashes, harnesses, bowls, anything you could possibly do. And here's the cool thing. They're always innovating some really cool stuff. If you follow them on their social media, you'll see Matt on there demoing a bunch of cool stuff they have. They're out in Colorado, got an amazing facility out there. One stop shop, nowhere else to go and look. Rayallen.com. Use the discount code WDR10 RAY for 10% off. WDR10 RAY for 10% off at rayallen.com.
Really?
Yeah. Came in like a fucking wrecking ball. But yeah, we did scenario stuff in the box out there in the training site. And then, from Irwin, I went to Fort Stewart. And then again in Fort Stewart, again, just set up again the pet training, was taking clients, was doing, just protection stuff and Liberty County, McIntosh County. Matter of fact, McIntosh actually has a dog from me right now. And it just, did all that stuff. Then I got attached to third group. And we deployed with third group, such operations. We were out there for about a year. I was with 2 teams, and both teams had canines. So obviously on the downtime, we just, I think I ended up, when we deployed with third group, then, we come back and go out there and do some work and stuff like that. And then from there, I kind of started immersing myself a little more into the sports side. So I went back to friend training after not doing it, for years, because I was looking for MBBK and there's not out here any in the States. And through the search, I found a group up in Atlanta, Georgia. I started doing friend training with them, some of my dogs. And the rest is pretty much history. I started training, fouling, competing. Got certified as a decoy, moved from Georgia, moved from Savannah to Columbus, continued training out there. Now I was actually closer to Atlanta, because before it was a 5-hour drive, and then before, and when I got to Columbus, it was only like a 2.5-hour drive up to like Canton, Ackworth area in Georgia. And then I left that club, and then my buddy Miles and myself, we kind of left the club and we were just training with each other at a community baseball park, and just hit it hard, trained, titled a few dogs. I had a personal dog named Jet, and I went to compete him in Massachusetts. And as soon as I got done with the brevet, there was a guy, and he was like, "Hey, is that dog for sale?" And I'm like, "Not really." Like, he's he was one that I, bred, trained, and was, getting ready for ring. And he's like, every dog has a price. And I'm like, "Oh, not really." And then he's like, "Give me a number." And I mean, the dog is a 14-month-old dog, so it's not like, I put like a year of work. He goes, this was 2018, I believe. He goes, "I'll give you 85 for him." And I was like, "So, here, take him." So, at the time, Jet and Shaka, which Shaka is my dog now, but Jet and Shaka were basically being raced together. Miles had Shaka, I had Jet. I trained Shaka, he trained Jet, and vice versa. Used to show up to Miles' house with a trailer full of dogs, and we were out there every 2-3 times a week, just hammering down some ring dogs. And when that happened, I didn't have a dog that was ready for trial. And like I said, they were 13, 14 months. Miles got into, he needed some money, so he thought about selling Chaka. And when he brought it up to me, and I was like, "Dude, as much time and effort that we put in this dog, like, I'll buy him from you." And he's like, "Oh, are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm not gonna, I just can't see the dog going to the department when I know the potential the dog has in the sporting world." And, he's just a hammer, social, level-headed. Jet was a little bit, more MBBK type angry dog. So he said, "Okay." So that's how I ended up with my dog Saka. He was, 13 months old, and I ended up with him, and then started competing. I was still, training and shaping Para and Dixie and Venom, which are the dogs that I compete. And then, COVID hit. And we were on lockdown. I was still active duty, obviously. So I spent pretty much that whole year training in the backyard. Miles would come up to the house. I would go up there. And then in 2021, when they opened up all the COVID stuff, I hit the season hard. I competed. I trialed and titled 5 dogs that year.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. All the way from brevet to ring 3, or ring 2, I should say, ring 2. In 2021, I went to nationals with Shaka, California, Dixon, California. And it's when Shaka got the NARA Cup and the vice championship in ring 2. And then, just continue building dogs, doing, 1 season, 2 seasons. Some of the dogs that I sold to departments, and that's like a little different than what I do. It's just as like every dog that I sell to a department, it's not sourced out. I'm not a vendor. I don't buy dogs to sell to police. I just kind of breed, race, and train my own. So like I'm not a big. I don't have like a bunch of. I don't have 100 dogs in a kennel that you can come choose from. Just when I have one season, you know what I mean, like that I feel like they're gonna be good. Reach out to some of the departments, or they reach out to me, and I don't really see the satisfaction on having 100 dogs and having dogs getting washed over and over again. I rather have a few solid dogs that I know are going to go through the program and not have an issue, But yeah, and that's pretty much. And we're here. Then from there, I got approached to do a partnership in Tennessee. I came up here. I moved all my dogs and everything out here. Didn't work out, and then ended up staying here in the place. And they left. Continued training. Got into PSA. Took my dog Shaka from from a PDC to a 2 in 6 months. Then when I got out the army, he was going to be my patrol dog for Anderson County. And then decided I was going through some like custody issues, and I had to go to court, and I didn't have the headspace to stay in the department, so I resigned, and just handle my business with my kids, and then just kind of stay here and just done a bunch of seminars for people. Again, I don't call them seminars. We just go work dogs, we'll work dogs, and I've decoyed some of the Canine United, one of the Canine United competitions down in Florida, do some of these showdowns in Florida, like haunted house stuff. I do a little bit of everything, sport, police, civil protection, and then here we are. And now this place got a little small for us, and so now we're moving back down to the coastal Georgia area. We got 142 acres and got some big plans. We're actually going to open a decoy school. It's going to be a 3-month school with a curriculum, physical fitness program, barracks, kennels, handler school, yeah. And then also still have my sports arena that I'm building. It's going to be like a covered arena. Be able to host police nationals. We'll be able to host any working dog stuff there. We're going to have campgrounds. We're going to have a few things out there. It's 142 acres of canine fun.
I want to go back to when you were a kid, growing up in Puerto Rico. Because I'd never been to Puerto Rico. Is there a French influence there? No,
not really.
I was kind of curious as to, like, your mom's getting dogs from France. You guys you get into the French ring. I didn't know. I've never been there, so I don't know if there's there's ties to France at all.
No, there's only 2 clubs in Puerto Rico that do French ring. You got ECA, which is in Arecibo, which is northwest, kind of. And then you have Caribbean Dog Sport, which is in Ponce. But they even work together because it's not that big. Back then, I don't know the reason why they got French line dogs. That's where they came from. That's what I started with. There was some French line dogs, and then I was actually the first person to bring NBBK dogs to the island. So.
In NVBK, is there leg bites at all?
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering how difficult that transition for your dog was to French ring.
The difficulty came into the technique, the advanced technique, right? Because there's no speed, there's no pivot in NBBK. NBBK is kind of like KMPV. It's all absorption. Like, you just stand there, and the dog's coming, and there's no absorbing, there's no turning, it's just a straight shot, and then you absorb it backwards, but you don't like turn or anything like they do in PSA
Right.
So in that sense it's pretty similar to KMPV. The dog's coming straight, boom, hit. And that's how it is in MBBK, whether it's leg or arm.
All right, our next sponsor is really good for the business side of this. If you're in the business of breeding or raising police dogs, or even just regular dogs, pets, or gun dogs, or whatever, one of the biggest hassles that we have to deal with is housing. Making sure it's safe, making sure it's high quality, all these things, make sure it's sterile, it's easy to clean, we can feed. If not, it just creates an infinitely higher workload. On top of that, it's expensive. One of our sponsors from Horizon Structures, they do a great job at making a plug and play drop ready to go as soon as it hits the deck in your location. You have a gravel pad, hook it up to electricity and water. You can put dogs in it that afternoon, and all the guesswork is taken out of it. It's ready to go as soon as it gets there, and you can go from mild to wild. I've seen some that have stainless steel on the inside. It looks like an operating room. It comes with its own air conditioner, all the way down to just like a basic one you need to put in the backyard to satisfy your policy requirements. If you're a canine handler out in the back for a 10x10, he's got an indoor outdoor. He's got a little outdoor thing that's elevated, so he doesn't have to stand in any of his waste, and it's easy to clean. So everything from all the way from a single dog all the way up. I think they do like, what do they do, Eric? Like they do like 16 and 18, like large sizes. So hit them up, horizonstructures.com, and they will get you set up quickly.
So one of the things we want to get into is talking, I like to talk about, for lack of a better term, purpose-driven puppy raising. Purpose-driven, like genetics and raising puppies to hopefully go towards sport protection, police, something like that. Ted has talked a little bit about it on a couple episodes, just kind of some project they're doing overseas and dogs that he's raised in the past, trying to get them that way. So when you have, like, I know you started paying attention to genetics when you were young and you started getting into certain genetic lines and everything. How do you do that as far as when the puppies are on the ground? What does that look like going as they're growing up and you're raising these puppies, trying to hopefully get them to be a working dog?
Well, it all starts, honestly, in the pairing itself, right? Like, you pair genetics, and in paper, you have a blueprint of what it could be. Potentially, dogs from this side to this side. In my head, I have if you will, the best way to think in it's just like a tournament bracket, right? Like I have pairings of traits of dogs that I've thought that are not even born yet, but they're like, all right, a product from these two will probably get bred to a product of these two, and looking for those traits. Some of the traits that I look for are fast recovery, natural pushing counter bite. Even as a puppy, I know a lot of people don't like puppies countering a lot, but I don't mind it because you can actually use that and shape it into what you want it to be. But if the dog has that naturally, like they'll put anything in their mouth, they'll counter at a very young age. I capitalize on that, I look for puppies that are a little bit independent, but not like totally independent, because that can also be a problem. And when I'm pairing dogs,
like search and rescue independent.
yeah. When I'm pairing dogs, I'm looking at the traits that each dog carries and what has, you're always going to have that first breeding that you're not going to know what you're going to get because the dog hasn't produced. So you don't really know what you're going to get. I tend to not pair two dogs that haven't produced, but I've done it just based on experience and what I've seen in the past with the, siblings, grandparents, fans. But, you really don't know what you're going to get. You can have two very nice dogs, and you know this. You can have two hammers and produce a whole litter of duds. It's happened. And so potentially, right, blueprint, you got the pedigree, traits, you got everything that you're setting that litter up for success. Doesn't mean it's going to be a success. And it's the gamble that we take every time we do a breeding. Throughout the time, I've found my personal dog that I like. If I would have to put numbers, about 60% MBVK, about 40% French. It's just, I found that blend combination, or whatever you want to call it, it gives the dog the grit and the power and the genetic fighting behaviors that you want from MBVK, but you also get that flashiness and pushiness from French ring lines. It's not a demon going down the field, but it's also not slow dog, right? The dogs that think, but they're not like super smart. I like dogs that are like mediocre, like me, brain power, mediocre, able to assimilate stuff, but not like a genius type dog, because then, when you get a dog that's too smart, then it'll outsmart you. And then, from there, after you do the pairing and you do the selection, I start ENS, puppies whelp, the mom, prenatal, giving care, puppies are whelp, day 3, day 2, depending how the litter's going, but day 3 we start ENS. I'll say this: before, probably like 6, 7 years ago, I wasn't doing ENS on any of my litters. I would just let it be what it's gonna be. Um, and then I decided to do a repeat breeding where one was done with ENS and the other one wasn't, and I can see the difference as the puppies grew up and were maturing. Like on uncomfortable situations, I could see the reaction on the difference of dogs, right?
So for those listening, ENS is like this neurological. What is it? Early neurological stimulation.
Neurological stimulation, correct.
Yeah, and it's 5 exercises daily when they're 3 to 16 days old or something like that. Like I have it all written down, but I mean, it's like we're not going to go into it here, but it's
Right.
Like it is definitely powerful. I can tell you, yes, it definitely does help.
It helps. It makes dogs be more comfortable on their back. It makes dogs be more comfortable, doing dog jiu-jitsu, if you will. Like you can roll with a dog that's been through ENS, and it just flows, right? The dog is not freaking out. He's not pushing. He's not, what the hell is this? Like the dog's actually fine. And also, you can get. You could get a puppy that is haywire, and you pick them up and hold them, and so it works. It actually works, and that's when I became a believer. 7 years ago when I did those 2 breedings back to back, one with ENS, one without it. It's a powerful tool. Not enough people are using it, and I think obviously, if we're talking directed law enforcement, like it's breeders, if you're breeding here in the States, because obviously with all the tariffs and all that stuff, I encourage you to do it. You're not losing anything by doing it. It takes you 5 minutes per puppy, and you do it from day 3. I do it all the way to day 20. So I do from day 3 to day 20, and then from there they're about 2 weeks. I put them in mush. They start eating mush at 2 weeks. Do the first round of D1. Now, when I introduce food, I basically treat the food. It's essentially just as a dopamine box. So the puppies are eating the mush. I start injecting different types of pressure. Like I'll start clattering the stick and making loud noises, banging plates as they're eating. And then, start progressing, like I'll shut the lights off and I'll make a bunch of noise, and you just kind of watch the dogs and how they react, and it lets me know like how much or how less I need to go. Whether and I say pressure, we're talking about 2-3-week-old puppies, like facial pressure.
Yeah,
during courage tests already.
Yeah. So,
fucking running, but throwing.
Yeah, I got cancer. Yeah, but just for that to be a second nature. Because if you think about it, it's the same thing as a dopamine bug. Like the dog's focused on eating that food. He's not worried about what's going on around him.
Mm-hmm.
You get your onesies and twosies. Obviously, at the beginning, they'll spook and shut down, but they'll recover quickly. And you start making notes. Basically, purple collar did this, or whatever, right? Yellow collar. Shut down and went to the corner and didn't want to come back for 2 minutes. And that's another thing. I don't baby them. So if they have to deal with it. They either come to eat or they stay in the corner. Most puppies usually bounce back pretty quickly and they come back into the plate, and then I reintroduce, clatter sticks, and as they're growing, kitty pools with bottles, make them hunt for their food. They're able to jump in there and just nose around, and that's tough. And I do all this, from the course of their 2 weeks all the way till their 8 weeks. By the time they're about 5-6 weeks, they already know what a rag is, flurful, So I throw it in the pen. I let them tug as a pack. I don't bring them out individually just yet. I just let them, kind of get the taste for it as a pack. And then as I see everybody's latching on, or everybody's, going where they need to go, biting, engaging with with the floor pole or with the rag, then I start bringing them out individually, taking notes again, away from the pack. You can have a dog that's really, really, really nice inside the pack at 5 weeks, and then you pull them out of the pen and you bring out their rag and they're like, mm-mm. So, and you make notations of those things, and just keep track of them all the way to their 8 weeks. I guess I sell puppies for sport and family protection as well. So, like, they'll get sold at 8, 9 weeks, and they'll come pick them up. They go based on, my suggestion. But at the end of the day, if it's somebody that I know is knowledgeable in the dog world and knows how, is successful, like, I'll let them pick. I'm not like that. I just tend to pick a lot for people that don't have much experience, that are new into sport, or, the case may be. I'm not worried if every puppy doesn't sell, because I raise them, and then I'll sell them as police dogs, green dogs. And that is a whole nother set of development, right?
That's a whole other conversation. We had on, recently we had on Neil By twice, from the London Metro PD, and they have a very successful program that they do. And I think he said that they do ENS too. We didn't even talk about it with him, but they have a whole other fucking deal that they do that, well, like we do too, but like at day 49, like there's the whole other fucking selection thing, and you do the whole process and the whole back and forth, and you see what they want to do and what they don't want to do, and what their loud noises and all that other stuff. But there is a large body of work that's been produced that ENS stuff does work. We did that with that litter that I raised. I call it the tequila litter because they were all named after alcohol. We did ENS on them, and I did all of the other stuff with them. And when I sold those dogs, I sold some to departments in Tennessee. I can't remember where. I have to go back and look. But I didn't do I did a lot of work with those dogs, but I didn't do a whole lot of what I would consider, like, and I'm air quoting here, like police specific work. It was just literally, this is how you hunt, and this is how you bite, and this is what you do. And this is how you interact with a human being that is trying to train you. And the response to that was basically like, these are the easiest police dogs I've ever had to train. They just kind of like, they know how to be trained. Yeah, like you show them a couple times, they're like, all right, cool. And then you add context, and you add further context, and then all of a sudden you start generalizing behavior, and they're like, yo, we can generalize behavior in like 3 weeks on certain behaviors, and all of a sudden it just kind of like works. And it was one of those deals where, from day, like I said, like you said, like day 30 to day, I don't know if I did it for 20 days. I probably did it for 60. I don't remember. It's been like it's been a while ago. It's been a long time. But we did all of the ENS, the puppy stuff, and play with their paws and whatever. And those dogs that was a German Shepherd litter, and they were fucking great. I mean, I think I had 11 puppies in that litter, and 7 or 8 ended up being of working quality, for single or dual purpose work, which is above average. So the other ones that didn't work, they're, active pets that are healthy, got great hips, and they'll probably live to be like 14 years old. So whatever.
What do you do? When do you start, when you're messing with the dogs and trying to figure out where you think they might go, when you start looking at maybe some of the nose stuff for the police side, since you've been doing some of that lately?
Like I said, I take notations, especially like the kiddie pool exercise, like dogs hunting for their food and going through rubble, and like we take notes. How fast they went in, how fast they found kibble. Sometimes it's luck. They just landed where the, where the kibble was. But then sometimes you see like the persistence, like how long did it stay searching for food? Did it come out of the pool looking for food somewhere else because they, stopped looking? And we notate all that stuff. Then another thing we do is we don't just do one site. Within the property, like we'll feed them in different areas. So like the property here has a warehouse on the other side, and like I'll bring the kiddie pool out there and we'll let the puppies loose. And there's like tools and tractors and all kinds of stuff. And like we'll let them go in there, and then next time we'll feed them like in the field. And I'll start notating. And the ones that are showing more of a hunt drive, for food, right, are usually the ones that turn out to be better for police work.
So I do have one question, and this, I guess, I think if you knew exactly the answer to this, you would be like the best breeder ever. But I'm always confused, or because I just don't know, how is it that two bangers can have a litter of shit? Like, what happens?
The genetics, So I don't know if you know this, but like puppies will carry more of the grandfather and the great grandfather than what they will do from the parents. Listen,
Okay.
I have a saying, and it's been true to this day with every breeding I've done. You want a few good puppies, get a badass male. You want a ton of good puppies, breed with a badass female. Females tend to have, to put a number again, they tend to have about 60% influence in genetics when it comes to breeding. There's a lot of male dogs that are very heavily line bred that have a very strong genetic pool, yes. But naturally, the female has more, like they have more influence when it comes to breeding. Shaka, for example, is a dog that he throws himself all the time. But not every dog. Like Psycho, his son, looks just like him, acts just like him, works just like him. But it was only like 3 or 4. The rest were all a mirror image of the mother.
And I've had experience with that. We bred a single-purpose male and a single-purpose female, trying to get a bunch of single-purpose pointy ears, and I ended up with 6 serial killers that were just not single-purpose dogs, and then 4 dogs that weren't even good for single-purpose work. They were just fucking pets that were like whatever. And then I bought a dog from KMPV lines that was produced on some frozen from a very famous dog. And what they wanted was for him to reproduce himself because he was very much like his grandfather, right, who is a dog that has a very low BRN number. And he didn't. And they bred him to, I'm sure, anything that moved, and it didn't work. So they're like, whatever, we'll just send him to the United States and he can be fantastic patrol. He's dead. He died last year, but fantastic patrol dog, fantastic police dog, and looked and act and was 1,000% like his grandfather. But the 2 times that we bred him, we got 22 females and 1 male. And out of those 23 dogs, we got 1 workable dog.
Yeah,
now, in terms of phenotype, they were just like him. They were massive. They were huge, big bones, short-coated. And now I'm describing, and everybody's going to know who I'm talking about. But they were a lot like their great-grandfather, but other than they weren't very serious, and they had 0 fucking drive. And I realized, and I knew why. And early on in this series, in this show, we had on Subtle. Subtle talked about a dog, and I'm going to have a brain fart at this point. I'm sure the dog's dead at this point. But I think it was episode 3 we had him on. What's called the unicorn hunting or something. But we had it. He was talking about a dog that he brought in. It was the same deal. And the dog did not reproduce himself. Probably the best dog that Subtle said he's ever seen in terms of police dogs. But he was like, he did not reproduce himself at all. No matter what. You breed him to a known female and the dog was like, nope. And you end up with a bunch of potatoes. So yeah, genetics are, and that's why every time I ask, like a breeder's like, oh, we have this dog. And I'm like, is it a repeat breeding? Because if it is, like, what do the other ones turn out like? And then I kind of look at, the siblings and that have already been bred. Like I have a female from a fairly well-known breeder in the United States that has a lot of dogs from a KMPV program who has bred her sisters, her litter mates, and the dogs have turned out a certain way. So I'm relatively confident that if and when I choose a breeder, like I know what's going to happen, picking the right male, whatever else. But yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a crapshoot sometimes, but that's the misnomer, right? Like we have a police dog. Because how many times have you heard like, oh, his dad was a police dog? I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm sure he was. Like, I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was a great one too.
And Tintin was his grandfather.
Yeah, I'm sure he was fucking awesome. And I see that shit all the time and I hear that all the time. but it's a, dealing with that thing we have going on in Bulgaria, it's been an eye-opening experience because that guy has echoed a lot of the same things. Like, you need to pay attention to this and this. And I'm like, all right, well, and that's up to you. So we've been fairly successful on that front, or we're going to be, but it's not an easy science. And a lot of people are like, oh, if I have Malinois A and Malinois B, even if and that's even excluding NVBK, KMPV, or French ring, or God forbid you even go like to Eastern Europe and deal with like Bohemia, the Alpha Beta Bohemia lines, which are also another whole other fucking, not even any of those other three. So you go to the other side and it's like, well, now I start combining and we get into a lot of things that I don't know, that it's, at least for me, I can't predict it because that's not what I do. I'm a trainer. I'm not a fucking breeder, but I understand the intricacies very well enough to know that I shouldn't be like, this is what you should do. I understand enough to know what I don't know.
This episode is brought to you by our good friends, the Perkinsons, down at Highland Canine Training. Highland, Highland Canine Training. They're a really cool place, guys. They have a school for dog trainers, pet dogs and working dogs. That is an amazing spot, man. You can go there. And it's no joke. Like, you're not going to be there for 3 weeks and come back with some stupid certificate. This is like a 6-month school for dog trainers. You learn every aspect of it, including the business side of dog training, which can be tough, especially for us former cops or current cops or military guys that don't really know all that stuff. They've been doing it forever. They offer online courses. They sell police dogs. They have canine handler schools. They offer in-person supervisor courses. Check them out, guys. HighlandCanine.com is the website to go check it out. Everything's on that front page there. It's a very nice website. Check them out, HighlandCanine.com. For the supervisor schools, I think there's a 30% off with the discount code WDR30, HighlandCanine.com. If you're doing this, and this is your thing, like one of several things you got going on your business side, doing breeding, how important is then genetic diversity? I'm like, things are going good. You got a pretty good lines going. When do you bring in something different?
Usually, when you get about, I would say, generation like 6 to 7, you start introducing something different that fits the description criteria of what you're looking for in your dog. And I tell everybody, when I breed dogs for me. If you like what I like, then great. If you don't, then go somewhere else. Because I like a dog, I like a certain type of dog, and I focus my breeding program on that, right? I'm not out here, and I don't mean to sound like asshole or cocky, but I'm not out here breeding dogs for other people and for their likes. I'm not chasing what you like.
Right.
I am doing what I like. I'm breeding the type of dog that I like. And when I'm looking to outsource breeding, typically it's a male. I don't really lease females from other people. So typically I'll go and get a stud from somewhere else that carries some of the same traits that I like on my dog. And also when I'm selecting the female that I'm going to use for the breeding to pair with that stud dog, the traits need to match. But I see myself going out about generation 5th or 6th every time, right? Like right now, I just did an outsourced breeding with Silva. Silva's a 7-time French Ring 3, just won vice champion or regionals. He just got vice champion in regionals this weekend. Is the current litter I have on the ground right now, and the litter mate of my dog Ring, Link, who's my Ring 2. I just posted a video. He went out. His littermate I bred to that dog, right? So Vera is a very MBVK type dog. She's very civil, socially neutral, not like socially, like she's not gonna go at the end of the list and try to eat you, but don't pet her. Like, you know what I mean? She just kind of stays to herself, leave her alone. When she's with me, you can't pet her. Like, she's just a dog. And then Silva is the opposite. Super drivey, super flashy, super twitchy, super social, right? So finding that balance of what I'm trying to get, we go back to that 40-60%, right? 60% MBBK, 40% French ring. Well, Silva has a little bit of MBBK, so hopefully he'll put in some of that trait that I'm looking for. Ideally, when I'm looking for a dog, man, I'm not like, I want a dog that I can live with, but still has the grit and the power to work the streets or work the field, you know. But my kids are able to handle it, you know. Handle in the sense of being around them.
Yeah.
And I've been pretty accurate, man. I've had pretty good success getting that type of dog because it's what I like. And most of the departments, just like Ted said, like most of the departments that have gotten my dogs, they're like, these are the easiest dogs to train. Like you just show them things 2-3 times and they got it.
They know how to learn.
And that's kind of what I like, you know?
Yeah.
I like a dog that's not like super hard to train either.
So do you end up with French ring dogs with amazing grips? Is that kind of how, if they go French ring, the dogs
and the
have?
size of them, yeah, for the most part.
On that side there.
So like big, twitchy, biddable dogs that bite hard, and you can still turn them on civilly to be able to do some patrol work, you know. And when you, and for me, like when I'm racing bite work mechanics and all that stuff, like I raise my dogs exactly the same when we're talking about bite work mechanics, whether they go into a police department, whether they're going to protection, family protection, or they're going to sport. The whole year that I do bite work development, I do it exactly the same. Now, when I'm looking for a French ring type dog, I'm teaching the same mechanics, but I'm also teaching them the technique, right? Because the technique is essential for a ring to be successful, like the skis, the return skis, you know, pivots, all that stuff. But when we're talking about foundation and bite work mechanics, it's all the same, no matter what field the dog's going to.
So when you're in your line of work doing that, do you have to have a network of people waiting for the dogs that aren't going to make it? Like, I think that's a problem that a lot of guys have. They're like, I'm raising, you know, I'm going to get into breeding. I had a litter of 12 puppies. Well, 7 of them suck. Now what are you going to do with these 7 puppies? Do you have to have kind of a network locally, or how do you deal with that side?
So, you know, some of them become service dogs and they get trained for PTSD, and, you know, some of them are good single purpose dogs. Granted, the right now everybody's going into floppy ears, but like I've been blessed that I'm able to move, you know, pointing ear dogs for single purpose. And then some just go pet homes, you know. My mom, she's kind of got out of the working side of the house. So she gets a lot of clients that they just want, you know, a pet. And, you know, they reach out to her, and I never really get stuck with a puppy. Let's just put it that way. I really don't. I just sold the last 2 puppies from shotgun. They were 4 months old. But the whole time the puppies were here, we're doing stuff like clicker and free shaping and having fun with them. Like, they're not just sitting in a kennel. So, and I get, you know, apprentices and I get employees that are wanting to learn how to train dogs. So those are perfect for them because they get to put hands on them, you know, so the dogs are not just sitting in a kennel. And then when the client comes and they're like, hey, I'm looking for a Malinois, but I don't want it to be like super drivey, but I want something that looks the part so people don't come in my house or whatever. I'm like, hey, I got the perfect dog.
Yeah.
You know?
I got a dog you can dock dive 400 feet with. Right here.
There's a litter from, you know, there's a puppy. Well, she's not a puppy anymore. She's 2. But she's a feisty little bitch, but the guy wanted to do dog diving with her. And I said, look, she's a lot of dogs. If you want to do dog diving, that's fine. But I would do some outlet, like whether it's IGP, ring, whatever. But you should have an outlet with that dog. And, you know, he does that. He's in California. The dog at like a year was holding the record on dog diving and doing IGP, you know, so.
How are you liking the PSA stuff? You said that earlier that you started getting into that. How are you liking it?
I'm not a fan. It's too chaotic for me. I'm more of a level-headed kind of guy. And it just, to me, finding the realism of you going in the streets with your dog and somebody running at you with some cams. Like, when are you actually ever going to face that?
Yeah.
Never. When are you going to have a perpetrator really coming running at the dog? Unless they're high off their mind. You know, You know, they're not going to come running at your dog. For the most part, they're going to run away from their dog. And honestly, I try to stay away from the drama. And PSA has a lot of drama.
Yeah.
French League is small.
I've heard that.
Canine Street League is small. Right? Those are my sports. Those are the sports that I'm sticking with.
Yeah.
Every
Street League's
sport
really
has
taken
drama.
off, man.
Yeah, every sport has drama for sure, but the amount of it, and I don't like fake people, and that's the type of people that I've run into in PSA.
This episode is brought to you by Dogtra Official, Dogtra.com. You guys have heard us talk about it. We've been with Dogtra for a long time. We love them. They're amazing people. We love their product. There's so many different things that they do. The 1900S, the hands-free. They got all kinds of things, poppers, droppers, all kinds of different things with their e-collar. But I have been a proponent of their YS600 bark collars for a long time. Everybody knows I talk about it. When I had the kennel open, I would come in and show videos of all the dogs being quiet. The YS600, they have the YS300 for smaller dogs. But here's the thing, guys. They just came out with a bark collar called the Smart Bark Collar. Dude, this thing is amazing. It attaches to an app on your phone. You can control everything out of it, see in real time what's working, what isn't working with the dog. But here's the kicker. It catches whining. That's the big deal with that Smart Bark Collar. It catches the whining because we all know your dogs learn to whine underneath the threshold of other bark collars, and it's super annoying. But with that Smart Bark Collar, it catches the whining. And in the app, while it's working, you can just reach up and hit the vibrate button. There's a little button on your thing that'll vibrate that if that seems to work a little bit better for your dog. Or you can actually administer your own stim as a little bit extra if need be. You can set minimums, maximums, sensitivity levels to pick up that whining. Check out dogtra.com. They have a discount code WDR10, 10% off a single item over $200. But check out that Smart Bark Collar, guys. It is amazing. We've been messing with it in my facility, and my employees absolutely love it. Check them out, dogtra.com. So one last topic. We're going to switch gears here away from puppies. I want to talk about, because you've decoyed in every kind of thing you can decoy in. How do we convince police departments? A lot of them are still in the fucking Stone Ages. But what does a sport decoy bring to a police program? So say you were never a cop, you never did it, you were just a sport decoy. What do you bring to the table for police guys decoying and helping them work their dogs that they just don't get until they try it?
Again, we can go back to that. A dog comes in. I'll give you a scenario. You're on a 2-story floor. You send the dog in. The guy's standing in the balcony, right? I give this scenario to pretty much everywhere I go that I work police dogs. And to try to do the same thing you're doing right now, like enlightening, like, hey, you can benefit from sports, because if you teach your dog technique, your dog can save your life and can save his own life. And this is the scenario. You're going up to a 2-story floor, perpetrators on the balcony, right? He's watched a couple YouTube videos, so he knows that the dog's going to come in to the left arm, so all he has to do is raise his arm. The dog's coming in, targets it, moves his arm, dog flies over the balcony, dead dog. If you get a French ring dog that has technique, or a police dog that even has a little bit of French ring technique, you do this, you move that arm, that dog's going to switch in the air and it's going to grab you somewhere else, right? You're not going to be able to see that dog. That alone, to me, is worth millions. Like, that alone, to be able to, because the dog that launches, and I'm not saying you're letting go of the line, obviously you're, depending on the scenario, right? But if the line does slip out of your hand and the dog sees the perpetrator and fucking goes for it and jumps into that bicep, and that guy moves that bicep and gets out of the way, and that dog's flying out the balcony. But if the dog were to have a little bit of technique, the dog's coming in, you do this and you go, thanks for the X-rays, and get you right here, right? Also, the level of training, let's be real. You're a dog handler, you're not a trainer. The level of training, the amount of time that we spend teaching the little things and the nuances in sport world, right? Those are things that if you adopt 20% of that, you will become that much more of a better handler. Just understanding the training and actually sitting down and evaluating and not just be a guy behind the leash. Like, I encourage everybody when I go to do work stuff, when I go train with them, to like find somebody in the sport world that they think they can relate to, and like study their videos. Like Oscar Mora, Michael Ellis, Ivan. Like for the most part, if you're law enforcement and you reach out to these people, there's a high probability that they will entertain your question. I know I would. I always do. I get questions all the time from handlers on my Instagram. He's like, hey, I'm having problems with my house. I'm like, hey, how are you teaching the house? Or did the dog even have a house when you got him? Well, I got him from a vendor and they were always using, they were always choking him up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, try this. 3 weeks later, hey, my dog's outing. Good. And that was just a sport type of, advice that I gave him. It wasn't, you know what I mean? So, there's definitely a lot of benefits for all departments to bring in. And I'll say this with inside in the air, in caution, to bring in civilian trainers that are successful in the sport world.
We tell everybody all the time, Ted and I, listen, so say you got 10 dogs in your training group. It's a Wednesday and you got 10 dogs there. Not one of you dudes are going to fucking catch more than 2 dogs. You're just not going to do it. But the sport guy's going to come in and he will work all 10 of those, 4 or 5 bites each. And that's just a typical Wednesday for that guy, a club day. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So talk about, like, rather than put the new guy in, where the safety comes in on having that sport experience. Safety for the dog, I should say.
Well, the dog's, safety, obviously the knowledge, how to read a dog's body language. These new guys don't know how to do that. They don't know how much pressure you're applying that you can potentially break that dog to the point of no return, right? Because you have no idea what you're doing. So you're just watching some YouTube video and now you have the new guy on the suit and the guy's trying to do all this crazy stuff. And like, if you can't read a dog and the body language and the eyes, any ears, tail, all that stuff, if you're not able to do that, you're not able to help the dog. All you're doing at this point is no bite work is better than bad bite work. I think we can all agree on that. Like, So having somebody that knows how to dog it, knows how to catch a dog safely, whether it's a PSA decoy, because most police dogs, let's be real, most police dogs are trained technically into that type of targeting, right? Like left bicep here. Unless you have a dog that has like a French ring background, which it has typically. But for
police decoys, man, they never do leg work. So it hurts, of course.
Yeah, of course it hurts. Try decoying a trial of 25 dogs, all leg dogs, like the whole trial.
At 30 miles an hour, every one of them.
Yeah. I just got back from Delaware not too long ago, probably like 2 months ago, and we worked 22 teams out there. And they're like, how do you guys do it? It's a typical club day. I have 16 dogs in my club,
Yeah.
So, but being safe, having that knowledge inside the suit, being able to read the dog, these rookies don't know what that is. Being able to recreate scenarios that you can kind of pinpoint what affected that dog specifically. Like, hey, this is when the dog did this. All right, well, let's recreate that. And let me read the dog and see the feedback he's giving me. And we can, formulate a plan from there.
Ted, at HRD, you guys still doing the zombie walk?
Oh, yeah.
How many dogs do you see that quote unquote, fail that, and it's because they've never bit legs?
Of the dogs that don't do well in it, so the dogs that don't do well in that exercise can just fall into 2 categories. One, they've never seen like just an odd presentation. Like I know when I say odd presentation, I mean something other than
anything other than this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the other one is right, because the zombie walk, for those listening, like zombie walk is set up where you have the pre-deployment notifications, which is kind of like a prepper for the dog. Like, hey, please get on the ground, show me your hands, you're going to get bit, blah, blah, blah. Right. Every dog that's working should understand, like, hey, if I hear that, I know I'm supposed to bite somebody. And then the decoy is moving, even though, so there's some prey involved, even though they don't look normal. they should still kind of engage. And the decoys are under kind of some instructions to not present unless told to, but they just kind of like continually move away from the dog, not at speed, just kind of at a walking, like a slow walk. But if they aren't comfortable with what I just call tertiary or secondary targeting, they don't, well, I mean, back up. Typically the dogs that I find that don't do well in that exercise are dogs that are not comfortable with secondary targeting. Like every dog is going to have a primary target, whether it be forearm, bicep, whatever, just something. And then if that target is not available, then they'll move to something else. The one thing that I hate when I hear handlers say is he'll bite whatever he comes to. And that's not fucking true, because that means they'll bite places they shouldn't. And that's not what we want to say. So we have these like targets of opportunity. So those have to be shown. So while they have a primary, it's like, look, I would prefer to bite you in the bicep, tricep, whatever, forearm area. If that's not available, I'll take a leg, and I will, not only will I bite, but I will bite the same way that I bite and engage, and the same intensity, the same veracity, the same mechanics, the same everything that I would on a primary target. If a dog has not been, I would say indoctrinated, but has not been shown and pushed through that type of program, they typically don't do very well in that like scenario. And then furthering that, when you go into gladiator pit, you see it even further, which is kind of like the, like what I call ghetto French ring, which we're not really skeeving the dogs, but we're like trying to shove shit in their face, and we're doing whatever we can to get away from them. And we're using like distractions, we're using prey items, we're using things to like whatever to prevent them from biting us.
Trash cans on wheels is a good one.
Yeah. So it becomes this like hide and go seek thing. So if the dog is not comfortable on on a secondary target, then they typically don't do well. And the dogs that don't do well, you see them fall into two further categories. So we're like, it's like the Harry Potter sorting hat. So in those categories, you have dogs that clearly are trying to engage, but are not able to get, even when presented with a secondary target, are still not really, they're still trying, but there's a secondary target issue. And then you have dogs that literally are conflicted, like, okay, look, I'm in drive, I want to engage, my target is not there. And this is not an equipment issue. This is not like an equipment fixation thing. Like I've done this with dogs with hidden equipment, like super hidden and super thin shit. And it's more about presentation and it's more about availability than it is about equipment. And that's kind of something that our industry talks a shit ton about, that I wish we would just fucking stop, because, I mean, not necessarily stop, but we not place as great as importance on it as I think we do. But the dogs that filter into those two groups either won't bite because the secondary target isn't preferred and they don't understand that that's a viable target and they're not comfortable there, or two, they've never been shown it and they fall into some sort of behavior where they either fall into a bark and hold, or like kind of bark and bark and bark and bark, and they're asking for permission to be shown that, because they've done 9 million goddamn reps of barking at doors, and barking and means the door opens and they get the preferred target. Or they're like, well, fuck it, I don't know, I'm confused, I'll recall to the handler. And they just turn around and go back to the handler. They're like, all right, cool. Like, well, I couldn't bite him, but he's right over there. So you have like, you start with this large group and then we filter and filter and filter and filter. And generally in our seminars at HRD, when we work through those, that's why we do those on the first day, because Gladiator Pit is the second half of the second day. And we have notes on dogs and we're able to kind of like filter some of those out, and we're able to make some substantial progress just from day 1 to day 2. And then on day 3, some of the other stuff happens and we give handlers and say, look, this is what happened on day 1. And then day 2, we saw improvement from this type of presentation or whatever. And then say, this is what you need to do to ensure, compliance and ensure contact in this type of scenario. And the feedback I've gotten and we've gotten from that is almost 100%, where 100% we did this and then the dog engaged flawlessly on a leg and didn't redirect, didn't come off, didn't do this, didn't do that, bit convincingly, did exactly what he was supposed to do because it was shown. But it goes back to what you just said, Eric, is like, I don't want to work legs. I don't know how to work legs.
Guys got to work it, man.
Because
you got to work legs.
It is not like working upper body. It's not.
No, you got to work legs.
It sucks.
Speaking of taking notes, you said taking notes on them. When you're going to, real quick, and then we'll be done. When you're going to decoy a trial, there's 22 dogs there.
Right.
The handlers, I'm sure, are watching film on what's your first step, what's your kind of move. Are you researching the dogs you're going to see to get their tendencies?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm there to take points from the dog, right? I'm there to find your holes, and then for you to go home and retrain, and show the dog the technique, whatever the hole is, fill it, when you get home. Essentially, trial is a blueprint to what you got to work on to be able to go to the next level. But that is the sole purpose of a fencing decoy, certified fencing decoy for trial, is to take points from the dog. Is to take points from you. That is his job, and because not only is the dog getting judged and getting points taken, or you walk in that field, whatever level it is, if it's a ring 3, like you walk in that field with 400 points. The decoy's job is to take as many points as possible from that 400, right? But the decoy is also getting judged by the judge. They also have a book, that tracks basically all your trials and everything, and there's feedback. So like your performance, like there's decoys that don't get called out to trials because they're way too good, and people are scared of putting a dog with a real decoy,
Huh.
No, it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, it does.
Like, so-and-so is judging, so I'm not going to go to that trial.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens a lot with decoy. I mean, my really good friend Bambino used to be the boogeyman. He would show up to trials and people would like not show.
Like, shit, he's here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I would probably like to know too, like if I was going to decoy, percentage of the time did this dog go up?
Oh.
Instead, because, you're expecting certain things at 35, 34 miles an hour and the dog goes up. I think you kind of want to know that, 40% of the time he kind of does that.
So I've done the decoy side of the house in trial, and I've also done the handler side of the trial. To me, I'd rather a handler tell me or not tell me that the dog goes upstairs, right? So, for example, Zyko, my dog, my young dog, is at a shaka. Every exercise he does in French ring, it's a leg bite. Every exercise, except the defensive handler. Defensive handler, and you come in and you aggress, he comes up, right? So, but I don't tell decoys that because guess what? They're expecting a leg bite, and I want my full point because I'm a handler, like I'm a competitor. I'm competing against that decoy. So, but also the subconscious in me says, I might want to tell him because I don't want a decoy to get bit in the face.
Somebody that's been with us since the beginning is Arnaud at ALM, based out in Vegas. Arnaud makes fantastic bite suits. I've been a senior level PSA decoy for a long time. All of my trial suits are ALMs. I love them. I've sent my one jacket back multiple times to have new sleeves put on it because it fits so well. Arnaud works with you through the process, helps you get a design set up. In fact, when I went out to see him in Vegas, he had my original design still in my original pattern still in the workshop there, and he was able to make me another jacket just out of the one that I have that's like 10 years old. He made me another one. Super high quality materials, super high quality stitching. Great service after the fact if you have to have repair work done. Hit him up, ALM K9 Equipment. That's the letter K number 9.com. ALM K9 Equipment. Use this discount code WD Radio for 10% off. Another person that has been with us since the beginning is the person that wrote the music for the intro and the outro on this. His name's Brother Deeg. He's no longer with us. He's a super talented musician, and I actually met him at a live show here in Tulsa. Super nice guy. He was super supportive of what we do here and what police dogs do in general. And he was gracious enough to allow us to use the music for that. Yeah. Wherever you're at, you can look at him on iTunes and on Spotify. Just Brother Deeg, spelled Dege, and it's brotherdeeg.net.
Yeah. You gotta.
And that's the issue.
Do I like this guy? Do I?
Yeah.
And some of the byproduct of some of that I've heard, like people that have competed or do or whatever in French training, is like the dogs are kind of relegated to equipment and trying to decide who's smarter, the training decoy or the trial decoy, and the handling is kind of like is what it is. On the PSA side, I have worked dogs in PSA and the 1s and the 2s that have French ring 2 and 3 and Mondial ring 2 and 3. And it is you don't know until they're on you, like where they're going to go. And it is fucking stressful. So during our handler meetings, we're like, look, we prefer left bicep, left leg. And they're like, he's a Mondial ring dog. You're like, shit. And I remember distinctly working a trial with like Derek Rose and Josh Kirby and a couple of these other guys and Jarvis. And they had a Dutchie. I can't remember the dog's name. This trial. And literally he bit all of it. And in a trial routine, right? He's working multiple decoys. He bit every single one of us at a different target. And he was catched safely. And like, it was fucking stressful. And Bradshaw was the judge. And I was doing the courage test. And he just kind of looked at me and he's like, well, I guess we'll figure it out. I was like, damn it. And at the last second, and that dog came ripping down that field. He was looking at my knee the entire time. I was like, I got you, bitch. And the last second, his ears flipped back and he looked right at me and went right from my armpit. And I was like, okay. And somewhere there's a trial. It was a black, I think his name's Clued. Does that ring a bell? Cluedy or Clued? I don't know. It was a little Dutchie. His dog was fast as shit. And there's a picture of us somewhere where I catch this dog, and it was like at the last second he comes up and do the drive and everything else, dog outs, does all the thing. And I was like, God bless, that was fucking sketchy, because right before that he'd bit somebody in a forearm, right before that he'd bit somebody else in a leg, and right before that he bit somebody else in the tricep. So it's like, look, he's going to go where he's going to go, and it is what it is. But, PSA is billed as a crossover sport, so they can bite wherever they want. Mm-hmm. And I've worked some French ring dogs that want to work legs all the time. And there are dogs in PSA that exclusively work legs. And they'll tell us like, hey, this dog, and we ask, and the decoys a lot, or I'll ask in the meeting, like, does anybody have a leg dog only, just so I can be safe here and so I can be anticipating it? But like, it's sketch. It can be sketchy sometimes because, in French ring, we're moving, you guys move away from the dog, like, or you're standing still. And PSA, I mean, Bebo, like, we're moving at, with the exception of very few of them, we're moving at the dog. So the timing gets wonky for the dog and for us, and it gets kind of weird sometimes. And it can be like, I just want to know, like, I don't care. But like you said, I don't want to get bit in the face. I don't want to get bit in the face. I don't want to get bit in the hand. Like, and also I want to catch him in a way that I can drive him for the judge so that I don't have to have the judge say, oh, how was this grip? And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. So I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, his grip was a 4.5 out of 5 or whatever it is. I'm like, look, I just kind of present. I'm like, look, here's his grip. Like right here, look, you can judge it. You're the judge. You let me know. Like, I'm just there to be a decoy. I don't care. Like, do whatever. But I want to be able to be consistent enough and present safely and catch safely and drive safely and present in a fair way that I'm not going to piss some handler off or, piss somebody off that's like, oh, you fucked up because of this. And I'm like, all right, whatever. But I want to be safe and I want to be consistent, but I just need to know. Please tell me. Please tell us. Please tell us.
Yeah. When I competed Chakra the first time, they're like, hey, anybody has leg dogs? And I was like, yeah, I have a leg dog, but he's not just a leg dog. He's a ring 3 leg dog. So, like, he has technique, At the end of the day, like, how you move, he's going to read you and he's going to go, wherever he feels like he's going to be able to secure that target. Right? But Zyko, on the other hand, I did a PDC with him. He's a ring 1 dog. I did a PDC with him. He's never bit the stomach. Ever. Never. He's never bit a stomach. We do the PDC. He's right here.
Straight to the stomach.
Straight to the stomach every single time. Full bite though, like full bite
every time.
In the stomach every time. So that tells you, like, just the way decoys move.
Yeah.
Can do a dog. You know what I mean?
And I tell people that too, like in there, because people at PSA trials will ask me, they're like, hey, after I catch their dog, they're, and I can tell them, like, look, I can tell whoever your training decoy is doesn't present in a manner that a PSA trial decoy does, because I didn't move, or whoever, like, as if I'm a senior at that trial and I say, like, X decoy didn't move, or I watched him do it, and the dog continues to move center mass, and I'm like, you either have a ring dog or you have a decoy that flags excessively and moves and flashes and does like things to bleed off speed and pressure to the outside so that we can catch safely. And like, I understand we're trying to maintain some safety and like whatever else, but we have to have a consistent presentation. And so like when we have a consistent presentation and a dog hits me in the chest, I'm like 100% I can tell that the training decoy was probably a little like, did some things that made the dogs move center, or made them think that I was going to bleed slightly, and I don't. And or not necessarily me, just one of our trial decoys doesn't bleed like offline, and then the dog's like, and then grip points suffer, and then maybe out points suffer because the dog gets slightly defensive because they take a hard hit, and then the drive and blah 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 blah. Then it becomes like a whole thing. So like the crossover side gets kind of sketchy, and it's the same thing. Like I've watched French ring decoys try and like decoy effectively in a bathroom stall. And you're not eskeeving a dog in a bathroom stall. Or a closet. Like you're just not, like it's not going to happen. And, it is what it is, right? Like there requires room, and French ring decoys are magnificent because of their athleticism and their speed, but they have to have room to work. And like, you can't eskeeve a dog in a dark bathroom in a stall. Like if he comes up under the stall, like you can jump on the toilet, but I mean, having done it, like they're going to get you at some point. So it's like literally where do you want them? Like you want them on a bicep? You want them on a tricep? You want them center mass? Like where is it coming? Because you're not eskeeving in a bathroom. Like it's just not going to happen. So it becomes like this like myriad of like environmental factors and geographic factors and several of these other things. But 100%. Like, and I've seen some French ring dogs that were converted to law enforcement that come in to situations like that, and they expect to be eskeeved, and they just fucking drill people in closed spaces. Like you send them into a super narrow hallway or a super narrow bathroom or a super dark space or into a drainage tunnel where a decoy is like kind of crouched and there is no room to move. And they just do what they know. And what they know is to just launch and push hard. And it sucks. It is one of the worst experiences I have had decoying French ring or Mondio ring dogs that are converted to law enforcement in closed spaces, because it's like there's nothing you can do about it. Like you're just in for the ride, and it sucks. And I mean, they grip well, they do what they're supposed to do, but it's terrible. It hurts, and I mean, it is what it is. But and that's the thing. Like I love decoying as an art and as a skill and as a like all these things. And we have so much variability in all of these sports. Like NVBK dogs, for example, is a perfect example. I mean, the presentation on NVBK dogs and NVB decoys is very stoic, is very precise, is very, I mean, that's the first time I was ever in a bite suit ever was an NVBK dog. And they were like, I had this big Belgian dude fucking slap me on the side of the head and was like, no, you present this way, like, fist up, this, that, the other. I'm like, oh, whatever, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. And just got smashed. And, it becomes like a whole process, and knowing the background and knowing the background of the training, the background of the genetics, and knowing all these things, you're like, okay, I can kind of predict what's going to happen. And then, sometimes, most of the time I'm not successful at it, but by and large, yeah. And that's why I love working dogs from all backgrounds. They're like, oh, he's an IGP dog, but we'll see we'll see how he does in a skeeve in a bathroom, and see how he does in a skeeve in the dark. And you're like, well, I mean, if he stays on it, then I'm going to run out of room at some point. So he'll get me. So yeah.
So if people listening to this are like, man, I want to meet this guy. I want to talk to him about puppies. I want to see where he goes. I like the stuff he says. How do people get a hold of you?
I mean, mostly through Instagram. I mean, I'm not really active on Facebook, but like on Instagram, you can either type in Bebo Santana or Bebo_Axel. My kennel page is up there too.
There's a link on your Bebo page to your kennel, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Bebo _ actual. So when are you moving again?
October 1st.
October 1st. Geez, man. Shit.
Moving to Georgia.
Headed to Georgia.
Our closing seminar, or not seminar, our closing trial was kind of like, hey, last event, September 30th, and then we've been, not September, August 30th, and we've been moving things back down to Georgia, coming back up, dealing with regionals, doing all that stuff. But we're out of here October 1st.
October 1st, heading to Georgia. You said coastal side?
Yeah, Brunswick.
Yeah, that'll be nice. That'll be really nice.
Yeah.
What about you, Ted? Oh, hey, you got to mention something. We have a giveaway.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. We should.
We'll get fucking murdered, man.
Yeah, I know. So we're doing a giveaway. We have a bunch of stuff from Worthless Handler, Kinetic.
Ray Allen.
Contacted Kirby. Yeah, Ray Allen and Josh. I talked to Josh the other day, and I think Alicia's supposed to contact him. When this comes out, I hope she has by then. If not, Josh, I'm sorry. But and then obviously we're gonna. Well, not obviously. We're also
tied in.
We're all going to give away, and it's all going to one person. I think Dogtra is too, and I'm sure it's going to be an e-collar and popper and all kinds of fun shit. Then Horizon Structures is going to give away a single dog structure to a handler. That wins the So that can be anywhere from like 8 to 15,000, I think, or even more than that. Like if you could do the high end shit. I don't know what the specifics are. Their kennel guy was on my kennel a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about it. So we haven't really sussed out how we're going to do the selection and stuff, but we have a lot of stuff lined up to do it. So Dogtra, Worthless Handler.
Do we know around about time?
I'm suspecting probably near Thanksgiving is when we'll do the whole thing. Give everybody enough time to know that we're doing it, and give everybody enough time to know that we're how to enter and whatever else. And then probably do a selection, pick a handler or pick a winner, right at the beginning of December, I would suspect. And then delivery sometime after the first of the year for a majority of the stuff. As far as the Horizon portion goes, we'll put you in contact with Horizon Structures, and they'll do all that.
It's gonna be nice. Those things are nice, man. Their single dog units are nice, really.
They are very nice. So, yeah, for sure.
All right, well, Bebo, this was great, man. I appreciate it. I learned some stuff, man. Like I said, I don't know much about puppy raising and breeding. I'd never heard of that ENS. I don't think so.
No, I appreciate the invite. I'm truly honored.
Yeah, dude.
Have a safe trip, man. Get down there, get set up, and I look forward to seeing the new digs and everything that you got going on your Instagram. If you guys get on his pages, he's got good stuff. He puts up, got good content. There's a lot of good dog stuff on there. You have somebody do that, or you do it?
I do it myself. I kind of learned it out.
It's creative. I'm not. So, all right, guys.
All right.
We'll talk to you on the next one.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, guys.